Let's get the final market week in September up and running. It's the 23rd today. It's the Monday, and we're expecting more interest rate decisions from Nigeria, Ghana, Lesotho, and a few other African central banks in the week. The central bank in the US, the Fed, opened the window of interest rate cuts by 50 basis points last week. Just this is where we finished off Friday. The Nigerian stock market was up by 20 basis points. The BRVM was stronger, roughly 1%. The Egyptian market started on Sunday with 0.33%. The rest of the region will be opening and joining the Cairo trading session today. You got the Nairobi down by 0.61% Friday, while the GSE in South Africa eked out just 8 basis points. Let's take it on. Of course, you've got the start of the UN General Assembly, the Forum for the Future was held, started on Sunday with the whole African leaders talking about the need for equality in terms of global economic and social development. And that was some of the messages that we saw from a number of African leaders speaking. South African President Ramaphosa, the Senegalese president who represented the G7. Then you have the head of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina himself, who will be speaking at the UN General Assembly. He will be bringing to the fore the need for further multilateralism, the need for African DFIs to take more decisions and get more funding to support various funding projects and investments, infrastructure, all that across the 54 countries that make up the African continent. All of that in play this week. So keep an eye on that. We're keeping that also for you. The new African Center will be officially open today. That will be about 2:30 p.m. New York time. It will be at dinner time, past dinner, 9 p.m. in Nigeria and West Africa. The Afreximbank President Benedict Orama will be there, and a few other African policymakers to speak to this new center. It will showcase entrepreneurship and economic development across the African continent. Keep an eye on the African Center, which is being opened in the US to begin to bridge the gap between Africa and the world's number one economy. In the meantime, the US Fed rate last week, 50 basis points, is good news for Kenyan investors. Let's see how that begins to play out starting from today. In the meantime, Kenya's revenue authority is looking to get about 586 million shillings from Siemens, the German energy company. And the EU is doing $52.6 million in funding for solar polar projects, 32 homes in DR Congo. That's going to bring energy to these homes. And we say thank you to the European Union for putting money behind that. Back in the East African region, Rwanda is donating 1,000 metric tons, beg your pardon, of maize flour to drought-hit Zimbabwe. We say thank you very much for bringing your brother's keeper. Let's move on to West Africa. The Central Bank of Nigeria is likely to hold interest rates tomorrow at the end of its two-day monetary policy meeting. The Bank of Ghana is expected to also decide on its interest rate in the week. In the meantime, surveys being conducted by the central bank shows that manufacturers in Nigeria are not so enthused about the state of the economy, in particular the exchange rate. Forward fixing for the Naira for 1 year contract was priced at 2017 to the dollar, the FMDQ markets last week. Let's get other news. Nigerians and AfDB are looking to collaborate on food security and economic growth. And the World Bank and the AfDB $90 billion plan to electrify Africa has gotten initial boost of $50 billion funding. We've got a whole lot more to cover for you in the week across West Africa and the rest. But let's move on to Southern Africa. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa delivered a very strong message at the UN Forum for the Future to start the UN General Assembly. In the meantime, South African government has welcomed a repo cut of 25 basis points down to 8% by the Reserve Bank last week under Lesetja Kyangango. And that said, government in Pretoria says that would be a cash easing for struggling South African consumers. And Vodacom shareholders, black shareholders of Vodacom in South Africa, opposed that 40 billion rand payout in Please Call Me issue. The black shareholder says they don't agree with it and it has to come back to the table for discussion. In the meantime, I mentioned Lesotho Central Bank interest rate decision this week. That's going to be on card for us as well. We'll let you have the numbers when we have it later in the week. Botswana is awarding a Canadian firm a license to mine manganese in the Southern African economy, while discovery in South Africa is boosting dividend to shareholders by 38% because profits surge in the first 6 months of this year for this huge insurance company, now with a Discovery Bank adding to its portfolio. Let me walk you through the North African corridor. Egypt is planning full gas output by the summer of 2025, while the country presently struggles to get enough gas to power electricity. Winter is just around the corner. Meanwhile, Egypt and the United Kingdom are expanding collaboration in renewable energy to bring more energy on board for the North African economy struggling to get enough electricity. In Morocco, the country has been elected onto the board of governors of the International Atomic Energy Agency. Congratulations. And finally, consumer price index in Morocco jumped 1.7% for the month of August. How will that impact interest rate decision by the Bank Al Maghrib later this month? That's anyone's guess. Let's leave it there for today. And that's your Frontier Opening Bell. Have a great week ahead, everyone. And watch this show again online and join us on social media. Give us your feedback and subscribe to our YouTube, Frontier Africa Reports. And that is free. Bye for now.